I think that should definitely be added. That'd be
True.
so sick.
I definitely wait. Say it again, just in case if I get laughed.
You can't fill someone else's cup when you have an empty cup.
What you're putting in, all your hopes and efforts are all in vain. Who will pick you up when you've lost everything? Does it all become for granted with a wedding ring?
Hi all, I just wanted to say hi, and I'm so excited that you decided to click on this video and to go on this journey and this project with me. I will remind you that I encourage you to look at my explanation video in regards to the Enneagram and this project, just so that you know the motivation and the purpose and how, as Christians, we can look at the Enneagram. The link will be down in the description if you want to check that out. But I really am super excited to present the Enneagram number 2. I got to interview about 10 different people. They were super awesome to help me out. With this project. Just people from all different kinds of walks of life, a lot of my friends and family, but people that matter a lot to me, and I really am excited for you to hear their stories and what they're going through, and I hope this encourages you and inspires you, points you back to Christ, but especially reminds you that you are not alone. And now I present Enneagram number 2.
This preview is going to be the essential message that this number received often as a child, and it was a wounding message, or a message that told them they're not enough, they're not worthy, it's not okay. And then I will also give you the essential good message that they need to hear, the thing that their hearts are longing to hear. Number 2's, the message that you kind of absorbed into your skin was that it is not okay to have your own needs. It's not okay. And the good message that you are looking for is that you are wanted. You are loved. They want to feel valued and loved, and they don't trust that if they're just themselves, that will happen. So they need to earn your love, like a lot of people. But they earn their love, or earn other people's love, by being needed and by being super helpful. They're definitely people who are leaning into situations very actively. So if something's going wrong, they're very, very helpful. They're wonderful to be on a team because they see something needs to be done and they're like, I got it, I will do this. They have an innate and quite beautiful way of seeing need even before someone else knows they need anything. So they can be just very aware of people and successfully aware of people and what they need. They're excellent caregivers. They can be really excellent friends, very, very generous people. 2s really are good and gentle and tender, like you want them in your life when they're healthy, they're some of the best people in the world. Like really genuinely giving, not through a mentality of give and take, genuinely generous. What happens with the 2 is that eventually in unhealth, they begin pouring from an empty cup. And that, because they're so generous with their time, overly generous sometimes, that gets them angry because they feel taken advantage of. They're notorious for not having great boundaries. They do not set those boundaries and keep those boundaries for themselves. Because they want your love, they will go above and beyond to care for you. You can feel smothered by a 2. Yeah. And they just like want to love you so much, and it's just like, it's too much. I'm loving you so much so that you will say you love me too. Mm-hmm. The problem becomes when they start keeping tallies. I did this for you, you should do something for me. They have this desire to see that you love them too. 2s can get caught up in guilt tripping because they themselves feel guilty for not doing enough. And they can get really angry and frustrated, but they can also feel really guilty for falling short. And they can show up as manipulative, sometimes in overt ways where you can kind of see what they're doing, and sometimes they're just like really charming and really like clever and very attractive. These are people who know how to get people to like them using many different means, but it's not for their own sake. It's so that it's a reciprocal, they desire that give and take. But the problem is they go over, and then oftentimes, because people are people, if you don't set your own boundaries and value yourself, people sometimes will then take advantage of those and not value you, and then you can be very frustrated. They're so good at meeting other people's needs, they don't take care of themselves. And it can turn into a sense of pride. I don't need help. I have everything I need. It's fine. I don't need you. I need you to need me. Because their connection to someone, they're always the giver, and that person is always the receiver. They have a hard time receiving. And that's like a real big challenge for the 2s, is to like let people take care of you. Let people meet your needs. Be vulnerable enough to share that you even have needs. The challenge, I think, is to learn to get better at their boundaries, to learn to say no to people. They're afraid to say no to people because then they're afraid that person's not going to love them anymore and not be in relationship. The deep desire to be connected. The home base is connection with people. And if I'm not connected with people, then I'm not valued. I'm not seen. It's a journey of discovery, and it's a journey of valuing themselves, of being okay in themselves and saying no. And it can be really a beautiful rediscovery of true grace and love that's offered every day.
It's good. My name is Brittany Blanco. I live in Denver, Colorado. Currently, my job is a milieu counselor. For those of you who don't know what that means, it's a psychology term for social environment counselor. So basically, I'm in charge of helping teenagers and kids who are very suicidal or just have behavioral problems kind of find their way back into society after attempting or just going through some really tough stuff. I've known Laura Lee like literally my whole life since we were like little fetuses. We went to school together from like preschool to 8th grade, but Laura Lee's definitely been one of my best friends since like I can remember, and yeah, I don't know what I would do without this kid, so boom.
I'm Andy Young. I am Laura Lee's oldest sister. I live in Lincoln, Nebraska, and sell real estate.
All right, so I'm Michael Sanderson. I'm from Hastings, Nebraska. I am teaching music at an elementary school here.
Hello, I am Isaac Golke. I was born in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Currently residing in Washington. Right now, I am just living life.
I'm Nick Locker. I am from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and the New England region of the United States. I am the interim director of student and young adult ministry at First Lutheran Church of Boston, executive director of 516 Missions, and the director of parish music at Lutheran Church of the Way.
My name is Lady Hurley. I'm from Maumelle, Arkansas. I am currently working at an allergy clinic, but looking to get out of that and go into producing and publishing.
My name is Dakota Judds. I'm from Lincoln, Nebraska, and I'm currently applying for PA school and in that process right now.
So, hi, my name is Molly Baker. I'm living in St. Louis, Missouri, while my husband goes to seminary. I'm a first grade teacher at a Lutheran school, St. John's Elementary School in Arnold, Missouri.
Well, my name is Paul Nelson. I guess I would say I'm from Norfolk, Nebraska, but I currently live in Chesterfield, Missouri, the St. Louis County area, where I'm the Director of Christian Education at King King's Lutheran Church.
What's the difference between cat and dogs? Dogs look at you, you love me, you feed me, you take care of me. You must be God. A cat looks at you, you love me, you take care of me, you feed me. I must be God.
And then my number is a number 2.
And she tells me I am a number 2.
And I am a 2.
Oh, I'm apparently a 2.
And my Enneagram number is 2.
And my first number is 2.
And my number is 2.
And I'm an Enneagram 2.
I believe I am a fairly hard 2.
Deadly sin, based on this test, is pride. Would you agree with that? And if so, how do you deal with that?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
I don't know. I would say I probably agree with it.
I don't know. I don't know if I necessarily call myself a prideful person.
I totally agree that that would that is definitely a deadly sin for a 2. I don't think it's my deadly sin as a 2 though.
Yeah, I would have to say that being a 2, that I can be prideful at times.
I think that's definitely the case.
I would agree with it. I definitely struggle with pride.
Yeah, I do agree
Pride,
with it.
I don't think that in a sense of pride, like, ooh, look at me, like I'm, like boastful pride. But I would say that like my Achilles heel, or what really will make me feel loved, I guess, or feel seen and appreciated, is if someone tells me that they're proud of me. I always feel guilty, almost always feel guilty, because I'm either doing too much for one party or person, or not, and then I'm not enough for another one. But I'm always fighting for that balance. If I let somebody down, that's worse to me than anything that could happen. And so it's like I'm constantly trying not to let anybody down.
Yes, there's I think there's definitely a sense of pride there, but it's also kind of a fine line between knowledge and experience. And so when you're involved in something, sometimes that can seem like prideful, that like I know how to do this. But then there's also just that line where you're in the midst of something and realize, look, I've got the experience. I've been doing this for 15 years. If pride comes off, oftentimes it's not necessarily intentional.
And like I said, it kind of goes back to that dark side where like I base myself on how other people see me. So if I don't perceive myself as being, someone who's liked in other people's eyes, I'd say that that's when I kind of start to decline and stuff. So I have to be prideful, I think, and be kind of boastful about like my actions sometimes, because I feel like I need to be seen as someone that's liked.
I'm less in the give me credit pride range. I'm probably more in the outward looking pride range. Because like I want the thank you, but that's all. I just want those 2 words. It's like if I bake a cake for someone for their birthday, like, yes, please say thank you. Please tell people I did it. But at the same time, I guess I'm so easily embarrassed that I was like, no, I'm good. You don't like. I don't want it to be all about me. I'd rather it be about somebody else still. And I still compare myself to everyone else. I will always want to look better than everybody else, but it's not necessarily out of spite, but more out of just normality.
That can just look in different ways to me, but I like to know that when I'm helping people, like I'm usually doing the right thing, I think, at least, and that can be prideful.
Because, you know, I'm also a words of affirmation person, and I feel like that's fairly common. Choose to want that affirmation. So after I do something, I was like, well, you better tell me I did a good job, or you better, you know, like those are never things you would say out loud, but there are things that you feel. But I feel like that is my sinful motivation sometimes, is that I want that recognition from God, from other people, like, thank you for doing what you did. That pride of like, I can do it myself and I don't need help from other people. So I think definitely in my marriage, I can get that way. Like times like, oh, I'll just do it. Oh, I'll just do it. Like I can do it better. I'll just do it. Yeah, it's faster if I do it. It's better if I do it.
I try not to go overboard with it. Well, like I'm proud of Danny for getting his license. You know, but that's a good pride, I think.
Yeah.
I'm proud of myself when I can get my apartment cleaned.
There you go.
I like to feel needed, and I like to feel like I am absolutely necessary. I could or have trouble letting go of things because I don't necessarily trust other people to do it for me. So I struggle with, I think, letting go because I'm prideful in what I am able to do to help to be essential.
I want to be the person that's strong for everybody and is there for everybody, and you know, they can come to me to rely on to like help them, like lift them up or anything like that. So pride definitely gets in the way when I realize that I'm not doing okay and I need help and I need to ask for help myself, because pride is kind of tricky and makes you think that, you know, I got this, I don't need nobody, I can figure this out on my own. But in the end, if you try to keep figuring it out on your own, you're only drowning deeper than what you already are.
I like helping people, and helping people often makes me feel good. So then that also makes me wonder, do I help people because I genuinely want to help them? Or is it just because if I know if I help someone, that's going to make me feel good? So is it that's a hard word for me, selfish of me helping people because my intentions were wrong? That's something I always wondered about.
Yeah, I think recognizing it is a huge step. Obviously, like praying that like God will help keep you humble, and really just practicing humility. Like I've definitely spent a lot of my years practicing humility. I try to be humble, but of course, you know, whenever you talk about like practicing humility and how humble you are, then you sound prideful. So it's just kind of it's a double-edged sword. But
my best way to cope with it probably is just to take a step back and think about what is happening in the situation and why am I feeling that way. Usually if I'm prideful about something, there's something else attached to it, deeper roots to the issue than just me being prideful.
So I just need to remind myself and stay level-headed, because at times when you do help people, you're like, oh, this is great, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm a great person for doing that. And you just have to remember to stay level-headed through the whole process. Otherwise you kind of grow arrogant and realize that you think you're more important because you do help people.
And practicing, like asking for help too. I think for me, that was, especially in my marriage, like that was something that I needed to grow in, is practicing and being okay when somebody else does something. Like, especially in marriage, like that's a big thing, like being okay with somebody not doing it the way you would do it.
I asked my wife, how am I doing? She's good at keeping me in check and making sure I'm not too full of myself or prideful in what I'm doing, or mainly, being right.
It's like anything else, you know, you pray to God for guidance to help you through it. You know, He is my roommate.
There's like basic fear and desire with every number. The basic fear for the 2 is being unloved, and the basic desire is feeling love or feeling loved. Does this sound familiar? And if so, why do you think that is?
I don't want to necessarily say I like strive for it, but like I kind of look forward to getting that recognition or, that love from people. That's something like I kind of struggle with. I've gotten way better at it because I've realized that I don't need everybody's approval. I don't need everybody's love. I'm going to have people who love and hate me, but I know with my close best friends, like I can be myself and like they love me no matter what. But when I'm with someone like a different group, it's like I kind of almost like put like on like a mask and try to almost like perform or make them see me in like a brighter way than what I really am. When I take that mask off, it's like, oh, well, this is not who I remember you as. Well, and then it's like, well, you know what? It is what it is. Y'all can deal.
I think that's the basic human desire, is to love and be loved. I don't think it has to do with a number necessarily. I'm always trying to get people to a better place, get people to the place where they want to be when they can't get there themselves. By doing that, I guess inadvertently, I feel good about myself. Inadvertently, I know I'm appreciated. Inadvertently, they're not disappointed, but I guess it can be translated to feeling loved, I guess.
Yeah.
Not that they don't love me when I don't do the things. I don't necessarily love doing the things that I do for people all the time, but I would rather have them here and appreciate that they're here than not have them here at all.
And I think it goes back to, we like helping people. We're very empathetic, and so we feel other people's feelings. I think for the most part, like we're very in tune with other people's feelings. When we feel how someone else feels, then like that'll affect us. And then we almost need like that pillar of love to kind of help like stabilize us. I've definitely been in points when I've kind of spiraled down to like, essentially like depression, with like feeling, unloved, feeling really lonely. I'm also like an extremely extroverted person, believe it or not. Like when I'm alone, I don't feel loved or accepted, and that's hard for me. It's not necessarily that I don't feel like I need them to appreciate like me helping them. Sometimes it's I feel like I need them to reciprocate a little bit. And like I need them to be here for me for a second instead of me always being there for them.
Yeah. I mean, I am very much an introvert, and I need my space away from people. Thus me taking a trip by myself for over a week with just me. But I do very much feel the need to be loved. I mean, I want people to love me. I don't necessarily feel like everyone should love me, but if I care about a person, I deeply want them to like me. I've been through a few breakups in the last few years, and that's always hard. And then breaking that love, and then hurting, like you have that love, and then something happens and you hurt them and you break that trust, and then all of a sudden they don't have that love for you anymore, and that hurts me deeply more than anything. I'm very good at hiding my emotions. Sometimes it's difficult for me to express them, but I would say I am pretty emotional. And I've noticed as I gotten older, the more emotional I've become. Still really haven't cried at a movie yet, but
really, wow.
It's gotten to the point that some of these movies I can get a little teary-eyed.
3 groups of 3. And this one I'm talking about is the heart, the head, and the gut triad. So 3 numbers are more driven by their head, 3 numbers are more driven by the heart, 3 numbers are more driven by the gut. Not that if you're like in the head triad, you don't have a heart, or not if you're in the heart triad, you don't have a head. That's not what that means. But it's more, you're driven more by one or the other. And for 2s, you are in the heart triad. And by, according to the road back to you, they are driven by feelings. They take in life based on feelings from the heart and are more image conscious. They ask, what will others think? And 2s tend to focus outwardly. What in your life can attribute to being in this triad, kind of based on what I just said?
I think there is truth that we do get wrapped up in image. And I think with the best of intentions, we do want to be that reflection of Christ. However, sometimes in our actions that will translate into vanity. It can translate into missed priorities. We're so focused on what we think people are going to see and how we project that we forget that the image we project and reflect isn't necessarily coming from the outward expressions, but rather through Christ in us. That's something I always have to be reminded of when we're doing projects and doing ministry, because it's not about me. It's not about what I have to give or what I have to offer, but it is Christ in me empowering and speaking through me and telling his story and not my own.
I've learned enough about myself that I'm able to know that if I'm feeling a certain thing, and I know I'm going to sound so lady right now, but I'll watch a certain movie to help me pass that feeling and get through that feeling. Like, I'm telling you, movies are the secret to health. But like, when I'm feeling like what you said about us relying on image, definitely the big thing, like in middle school, I was too big to wear the skirts that had the pleats in them that came from the toggery, where all the popular girls got all their stuff. And I didn't have the long blonde hair, and I had this short of hair, much curlier, acne all over my face. And I was in 4th grade with braces. I think that's definitely what caused me to want to wear makeup more, want to go hang out with the cool kids, even if they were horrible to me and flush my stuff down the toilet in gym class and all types of stuff. It was that two's nature to want to be loved, but also to care almost more about image than helping them. It's like by making you look better, you are helping them feel better. So it was this really stupid intertangling of two-ness.
I'm more worried, I guess, that people have problems with me, not necessarily like if everybody's going to necessarily love me, but it's more, I just don't want to have problems with anybody. And that's one thing that I want to make sure of, because if somebody does, I want to fix them and make sure that we're in a good place. And I wouldn't really say that I'm driven feeling wise either. At times I am, and I guess it just depends on the circumstance, but there's times in my life where I'm more focused on this is the real situation, what's going to come out of it, rather than my feelings are going to point me this way. Whenever I'm in a situation where I'm around a bunch of friends and stuff, if everybody's having a good time and everything, I'm happy and it's good that that's the case. But whenever there is somebody that I do notice is upset or sad, I usually try to focus on that and try to help them if possible, because if obviously somebody has grief and needs help, I want to try to be able to be there for them any way possible. So I'll probably put my focus more on that than rather than just having a good time myself, because there's more important things that need to be accomplished at that time.
Have you heard about the stress and security numbers?
No.
Okay.
I'm feeling the stress and not secure. So.
No. Yeah. But what that basically means is when you are stressed or insecure, you exhibit the negative sides of one number. You don't become the other number. You just kind of exhibit, the negative sides. And then when you're more secure and confident, then you exhibit the more positive sides of another number. So, for example, as a 2, when you are healthy or secure, you access or exhibit the positive sides of the 4. And when you're stressed or insecure, you go to the unhealthier sides of the 8. Some of the negative sides of the 8 are they can be very demanding, not as sensitive, I guess we could say, to other people's feelings, a little bit more I don't know if I would use the word oppressive, but kind of a little bit in that way of like trying, this is what I want and it doesn't really matter what you think. 8s can also be, when they're unhealthy, be not very good with moderation. So they can overwork, overexercise, overeat, overparty, that kind of thing. Do you think that you can relate with that when you are stressed or unhealthy?
I think the overworking, definitely. Because if I am this happened to me a lot more in college, I guess. If I was upset or stressed about something, I would just sit in the library and do all my homework really quick and try to get a lot of things done to almost distract myself. And I feel like I still do that in the professional world too. Like if I'm really upset about something at school or something that happened, I'll just work really hard to try to make up for it, or I'll just work until really late to get, all these extra things done. And I tend to overcommit myself, and I have a really hard time saying no. And especially working in the church, because there's a lot of meaning behind that to say yes, but then at the same time, you can't truly serve because you've overcommitted
But that's
yourself.
the interesting contradiction as far as wanting to help so much that you don't help yourself. It's the kind of rest factor.
The good things about the 4 is they're very good at knowing their own feelings, their own emotions, kind of being very self-aware. When they can be very creative, they can be very musical, or some of them are artists or writers, that kind of thing. And they are also not afraid to go to those darker emotions, to be with people, to help them in a way, to see the light. Some numbers kind of go away from that, but 4s are good at kind of sitting with people in that. So do you think that when you're secure or confident, or healthy, that you can relate with some of those things?
I've definitely seen it in growing up in high school. I definitely was the friend that people could talk to about their problems, and especially when they were really struggling, even threatening suicide, that kind of stuff. And that's been huge for me in ministry, to be able to sit with people in those dark places and to talk to them and listen. Probably could work a little bit more on the listening side of things, but definitely be sensitive to other people's feelings, want to help, but also be able to talk about those tough things.
Try not to stress too much. Like I said, I turn it all up to God. It's His will, not mine. I'm a pretty happy-go-lucky person as a rule. I enjoy helping in Sunday school, when I teach kids what a martyr is or something like that. And it makes you feel good when you tell them something that they didn't know about Jesus. It's a good outlet.
And definitely the musical side. I played saxophone in college, and I still got to play quite a bit in North Carolina. I was in the community band.
What? I didn't know that.
Valley, North Carolina.
This project, where I'm also focusing on bringing in Bible characters that also have some of the characteristics of each number. Not to say that these Bible characters are those numbers, because we can't say, because they're not here and we can't.
Yeah, they didn't take the test.
Right, they didn't take the test, dang it. The 2 characters that I have for it too is Martha, and Martha was the sister of Lazarus, and when Jesus came to their house, she was helping, and she was doing all these things, and she was getting mad at her sister Mary because Mary was just sitting and talking to Jesus, and Martha was like, why aren't you doing anything? We're trying. I'm trying to prepare this thing. I'm trying to help and everything. And Jesus is like, no, Martha, you should be like Mary and focus on me. And then the other character that I have is Mary, the mother of Jesus. And kind of some of the things that Mary also offers is, when the angel Gabriel came and said, hey, you're going to be the mother of the Savior of the world, Mary was like, awesome, let's do this. I will help you. I'll do what you say. I'll do what the Lord has to say. And then obviously she does become the mother of Jesus. So besides the fact that they're both females, can you identify with those things, those kind of characteristics that both of those women exhibit?
100% Martha. I don't know why. That was the hardest question on there for me to think about, is you feel like you've got nowhere to go, nowhere to turn. And it's like me with church. It's like, okay, go through the motions until something happens. Some pastor somewhere says something and it completely just changes everything, and it gives you a new outlook on something. So I feel a real kinship towards her in that way.
I think that I fill my faith cup specifically at certain times. I like to keep things very separate. I like to keep my home life separate from my work life, separate from, and I'm doing these things now, but Sunday morning I'll worship. And yes, I do see Him working in the grand scheme of things, but I'm not always good about, before I make a decision, okay, is this what you want me to do? So I kind of see myself not in a good way, like Martha in that situation.
I notice that kind of a lot in my life, where I just get really busy and I kind of forget about the important things around me, when in reality I should be focused on God. And not my, the chores in that story, for example. Sometimes I, put my mind on a bunch of things and not focus on Carly as much as I should. But in reality, I should be putting my mind towards that, because that's what's the important thing is, not necessarily all these different things I'm doing.
Like if Jesus came to my house, I'd want to do everything. I'm like, I would want to make him a good meal, and I would want to make sure he's comfortable and change the sheets and wash the towels. And, God's coming to your house. Like, you have to have a good presentation. I feel like if Jesus came to my house, I would Martha pretty hardcore. And then I also feel convicted by that story because, Jesus calls her out and says, Martha, you don't need to do all of these things to win my approval. Just sitting and listening and being at my feet is enough.
For Mary, that's just kind of my attitude. Like when she says, okay, let's do this, like that's just my attitude in general. I'm just like, all right, let's do this and get my gloves on and let's go. Ready to take it on, knowing that as a person, I can do this. And then also knowing in the back of my head that I'm not alone because I have God literally right here on my shoulder, like saying, okay, we're going to do this together.
If someone came and told me I was gonna bear like the Son of God, I would probably be a little bit less go with the flow, like, okay, let's do this. I would probably freak out a little bit more. Also, I can't bear a child, so that puts a damper right on that too.
Yeah.
Chilling with Jesus instead of worrying about like, this isn't clean, this isn't tidy, like this needs to be perfect. That's definitely more me. Like it's more about like the people being together and stuff than the atmosphere that you're in. Like I could have fun with someone in a Walmart down the road and stuff, and it'd be I could have just as great of a conversation and stuff and get to know them just as much as I could if we were sitting at like a super fancy restaurant.
I think my first reaction would be, is there someone better? I don't know if I would necessarily be so gung-ho. I don't need time to think about it. It wouldn't be so, let's do it. Oh, maybe I would, but I guess I can be pretty spontaneous. So doing cliff jumping, if someone told me to jump off a cliff, I would do it.
I had to learn this rule once we got married that give me 10 minutes. Ask me again in 10 minutes. This isn't my plan. This is but you need help, and so I need to get acclimated to changing my plans to yours. Initially, I might react negatively and be like, no. But the more I think about it, it's like, okay, this is actually, I can move this to make it work. And
now I used to be more like Martha, but not so much as I get older. As far as a lot of cleaning and cooking, and every day sometimes I'll make too much extra, and I think, take a little container down to that fella with the cardboard side.
Because the dangers of all the external noises that can drown out. But then there's also just the power of the Holy Spirit and that voice that even through the mix of it, it's still there and it's still calling, and sometimes it's a soft whisper, sometimes it's a kind of a more of a roar, and sometimes it's a kick in the seat of the pants. It's also a reminder that God is constantly inviting us, even when we're ignoring him and doing our own thing. God is still extending that invitation daily, and I think that's just one of the cool things about it, saying, look, even when I'm busy or walking away, God's still trying to draw me back in and say, just sit, just listen, just rest.
All right, so the next question is, has any Bible verses helped you, maybe with the things that we've talked about today, but just in general, any Bible verses that have helped you?
Another really big story for me is Peter walking on water. For me, that story is so empowering, because if you think about it, Peter does walk on water for a second. And everything's good, but then he looks around him and the waves and life come crashing down on him and he drowns. And it feels like, I'm done. This is it. Like, this is me tapping out, because there's nothing that can be done. I cannot be saved. But then Jesus pulls him out of the water and says, no. You keep your eyes on me. You don't look at the waves. You don't look at life. You don't look at all the crappiness going on in the world. You keep your eyes on me, and we can do this.
My favorite Bible verse is Matthew 6, where it talks about, don't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to take care of itself. You're making me cry.
It's okay. Oh, this is good.
Because I'm a planner and I like to know what's going to happen. And I'm not patient with myself. And I like to know what's coming so that I can know how I'm going to react to it. So that if somebody needs me later, I like to be able to say, yep, I know what I have going on Tuesday at 3. I'll be there. That Bible verse tests me all the time. Because sometimes you just don't know.
Right.
And you don't have to worry about it because God knows.
And it's Philippians 4:8. It's just like a constant reminder. That verse is like a constant reminder to me, like that I need to make sure that I'm surrounding myself with like positive, good things. And that includes like making sure that my thoughts are dwelling on positive, good things and not letting myself like slip into like the negative. I need to always keep focused on all the positives, all the blessings that I have in my life because of God, you know, all the great people that I have in my life, all my great friends, like all that stuff.
All right, this might maybe a little controversial. I've never been someone who keeps Bible verses. I've never been a fan of people who spout a Bible verse. The Bible is a bigger picture in the first place. There's rarely any passages that I can just read and makes me feel better. If I am looking to the Bible for some clarity in something, I usually just pick a random spot and just start reading. And that usually does help me. But I'm not someone who keeps Bible verses.
Okay. That's fair.
Still the 23rd Psalm. God's promise was this, that through him we have life. He's already fought the battle for us. And so in those challenges, in those projects, in the things that we think are unsurmountable, or the expectations that we're faced with, or the moments that we think, man, this just isn't going to happen, that psalm gives me comfort because it is victory. God's story's been written. What's going to happen is going to happen, and that's already been set. And so I don't have the power to screw up God's plan for not only my own life, but also in what he seeks to do in a given moment or time or event. And so because of that, when I do take the time to listen and heed those words, there's not only comfort, but also I can relax because I know, look, this is taken care of.
John 15:19. I was the girl that was the easiest target to get bullied because I looked different. I was different. I thought different. I was the one who would sit there and think about the meaning of the word meaning. I quoted movies like no one's business. I've always been different than everybody else. And I think that verse helped me because it was reassurance. It was like God straight up telling you, don't worry about it. You're not of the world, so why should you act like the world? And that was my world.
I wouldn't really say there's one Bible verse that's just, that helps me through life. I think it's just reading the Bible and knowing that there is a Savior, and that's huge. Knowing that whatever happens, I can be at peace with whatever happens because God is a Savior. I think that's just the whole Word of God is just important to me, and knowing that I'm loved by Him and that there is something else to life than just my earthly needs.
So that's Ephesians chapter 3, and then really 17 through 21. But that's just the blessing that I always, especially when I work with a group of people, with children, with adults, that's a blessing I like to pray over people. And because those are important words to me, especially in my life where I have a lot of transition and, I'm not in one place for very long. Like God can do far more abundantly than I can do at a place in a year.
Romans 1:16. That was my confirmation verse, and so I just keep going back to. I have it as my email signature at the bottom. I think it's a good reminder, just that not be ashamed. I think it's kind of harder. Like I said, I struggle with being bold in my decision making or in my stances on things, and I can't afford to not be bold in the gospel.
John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, that whosoever believeth won't perish but have everlasting life.
Okay, so that, I mean, we kind of talked about it a little bit, but if you want to say anything else on that subject of how has God played a major role in your life and struggles with some of these aspects we've talked about today?
God's just put a passion in my heart for people. It's hard because there's so much God has given me. It's kind of like he's God. And so like I especially think of like the family he gave me to grow up in a Christian environment with a dad that's a pastor and a mom that's a preschool teacher. They were great examples of Christ to me, to be forgiving when I didn't deserve forgiveness. I've messed up in my life. Pride is difficult for me, but I am not a perfect person, and I will freely admit that. I have a passion to love other people, but it's not always going to be reciprocated. And so when I'm insecure in my love from others, I can always be secure in my love from Christ. That doesn't change.
God's a part of everything, literally everything. From the time I walked away from faith to the time I came back, and He's just waiting so patiently, saying like, we're not done yet. You're not done with this race. Learning, okay, like I need you in this right now because I'm lost. I have no idea what I'm doing. And if I try to figure this out on my own, I will drown. And then when life kind of throws some hurdles in the race, and I'm just like, I don't know if I can carry on. It's important for me to realize, no, I can, because I have a good friend, a good God, and a good Father right by me to help me finish this out.
I've really come to know that like he's here with me, and that like he's kind of the person I should lean on instead of leaning on maybe some friend, you know, like Dakota. Instead of leaning on Dakota or my friend Garrett or Seth, Alex, Ben, Tyler, you know, any of my friends. Sometimes he's who I need to lean on. He's who really I should lean on all the time. Not sometimes. He's really who I should lean on all the time. He's the one that can help anyone and do anything. You know, he's got power, you know, that he could literally, you know, help anyone, and he knows exactly what to say and at the right time. And so he should be our example of what we should look at when we're wanting to look at like who should be my example of who I want to be like when I am helping people.
I got into Concordia. It was almost like God's plan, shockingly enough. And I met all these amazing people that helped my faith grow through not necessarily strict faith, but just by having friends that were Christian and were there to talk to about that stuff. And hey, you just want to go to chapel. We're always inviting me places, even though they knew my social awkward butt would never show up to any of them. That's how he helped in my life. It wasn't so much the sermon, it was the people I met, because I would have only met them if it was for him.
As a two, we don't want to fail other people, and we just need to remember that God's never going to fail us, and that he's always going to love us, and no matter how many times we do fail, that he's going to pick us up and will, you know, get us to the next point in life and be there for us.
Yeah, when I'm healthy, I feel like the relationship with me and God is going strong. He's leading me on the right path. Oftentimes, though, I don't necessarily feel that way. I might not admit it at the time, but it's probably because I'm straying away and want to do something other than what God is telling me. It's often hard for me to ask for someone to do something for me, and that's gotten me in trouble before. It's something I've been trying to work on. I guess that is very comforting to me to know that he's always going to be there for me, even when I stray.
And those sinful motivations that are in me, you know, I can recognize and confess those. So it's not about how hard I work or what I do when I work, but it's that stuff has already been completed. And so it's a partnership in the gospel. So I'm walking alongside Christ in his work. And it's not about if I do things right or if I do things well. Those things have already been completed.
I just talk to him about the problems, and I listen. Sometimes he tells me what I want. Sometimes he don't say anything. He was what gets me through. If it wasn't for God, I wouldn't be alive, for one. He breathed life into me, so he's my everything.
God has shown over and over his just ability to not only take control, but just remind me that, look, I'm providing every step of the way. As I look back over, you know, many years of ministry, to be able to see that is not only an encouragement, but just a continued blessing that now I have the opportunity to share with others and to tell those stories and continue to point to his provision. If you look at the story of Christ and you look at the scriptures and what he does, so much about his story is providing for others, but also him being the great provider is so central to the Christian life. I'm called to depend on Christ for all things. I'm called to depend that in my challenges that are, I'm faced with, that God is there in the midst of it. And I'm called to depend on him for not only the provision of the moment, but also for the moments that we sometimes think that, hey, this isn't going to happen. Those are those moments that God is now shining. That is no longer about us, but it's because God provided for us, because God made that sacrifice, because God continues to fulfill the needs of his people, that we're able to continue in the story and to step boldly into it.
Okay, so last question is, what encouragement or advice would you say to someone who is also your number?
Know when it is okay to stop and ask for help, because if you don't, you're going to keep drowning yourself out. You're going to keep pouring from a cup that you no longer have anything to pour from, and people are going to keep expecting you to fill it up when you have nothing. Then it's too late. Learn when to stop, take a break, and do something for you. Like, breathe and recharge, refill your cup, but don't refill it by yourself. Refill it with God and the people closest around you. And don't be afraid to say hey guys, I'm not doing okay. I feel drained. I feel completely empty. Can you guys help me out? And if you have a really good support group, they should be able to be like, okay, I got you. They'll take on your weight for a second while you recharge and get whatever you need to feel better and to feel like normal too again.
Do that, be okay with not being able to help the entire world and realizing that there's some things that you just can't help with. Not finding peace in the fact that you can't help the world, but finding peace in the fact that you don't have to. I don't know, it's not your job. God's on that. The collective body of Christ is on that. We're all in this together. And just knowing that it's not all on you. Because sometimes being a two can feel lonely, I think. And the fact that you feel like it's all on you. And it's not.
So live your life. Try not to think too hard about what other people think about you, but also don't care. Completely not care. Be helpful, but do it in a healthy manner. If helping someone is coming at a cost of your health, then you should probably rethink things. Just believe God has a plan for you. I don't know if that specifically has anything to do with two, but
one, don't take yourself too seriously. It's not about you. It's not about what you have to offer, what you have to give, but it's all about your response to the gifts and the blessings that God has blessed you with. And just be reminded that this is all in God's hands.
Don't compartmentalize the personality into helping others. I'm the help for so many people, then there's nobody to help me because I'm the person I would go to.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, oh, I can't ask so-and-so, who would you go to for this kind of help? Because they'd be like, oh, you. Again, not that I'm the center of the universe, but I do have needs. And so I have to find myself and surround myself with the people or the resources to be like, okay, I need this right now. Who do I know that I can go to in an instant that I know is going to do a good job because it's important to me? They might not do it the way I do it, but they do it well enough that it's going to get me what I need.
Use those natural skills you have as a helper to teach other people to help themselves. Don't keep all your knowledge for yourself. Spread it around for others too. You're going to screw up a couple times, okay? If you accidentally put the wrong type of soap in the dishwasher and it overflows, get a towel. It's going to be okay. Teach others to help themselves, and that perfection isn't necessary. Teach others that, it's 6 a.m. on a Saturday at Walmart. You can go in your pajamas. It's okay.
Yeah.
Teach others that it's not always what people think about you, but you've got to think good about yourself, because inner self is way more important than the outer.
Even though how much you love other people and serve other people, don't always expect something back. You're never always going to get something back from other people. Maybe that's just not their, personality, but just, remember that it's not a failure to you, even though it might seem like one. Just remember that you did the best you can, you did what's right, and that you just need to move on and love yourself in those situations. So no matter how much you do fail people, you're still saved, you're still loved, God's still watching over you, and he's always going to pick you back up. Go find your next love that you want to, love that you want to provide for other people, or passion, or whatever that's serving in a big way or a small way. Just go find the next one and move on from that.
Always look to God in everything you do.
You're doing a good job. You are helping, encouraging, and loving people. We're proud of you and your work, and your service is meaningful.
It's okay being wrong. It's okay if you mess up helping people too, and if people don't like you. So it's a great honor to be passionate about people, to care about other people, to give of ourselves, but we also need to take care of ourselves. It's okay to say no. It's okay to set boundaries, but it's awesome being a two. There's great purpose in that. Jesus was the ultimate example of the helper, of the servant leader, and as twos, we tend towards that role.
Oh, snap. Oh, wow. You are done. That is impressive. Thank you for coming to the end. You're watching the ending. So thank you for watching. I hope that this encourages you, that you were inspired by this, that it points you to Christ, and that reminds you that you are not alone. So yeah, I hope it really did. And the other episodes are in the link down below, the description. They're links. So check them out if you would like to check that out as well. Thanks for your time. Hope to see you soon.